welcome back to my knitting podcast. I'm Ray and this is my knitting podcast Sugar Plum Robin. I'm a poet and a knitter in Edinburgh in Scotland, and I'm going to be chatting today about some of my knits from this last year, some of the things I've made in 2020. It's currently New Year's Eve, so hopefully I can get this finished and edited up and up on YouTube today in time for Hogmanay as we celebrate here. It's going to be a bit of a different one this year, going to be very quiet, and normally every year my family hosts a New Year's get together and we have board games and we cook on a fire in the garden, and we're not going to be able to do that this year, so it's a little bit sad. But instead I'm hoping to spend this evening just nice and quietly with my knitting and my family and being very cosy, which is nice in its own way. And we'll have lots of time in the future to spend with friends. Every week when I podcast, I start and finish with a poem. I write poems and I read them and I love them, and they're a big part of my life. This week I thought I would start with a poem by one of my favourite poets. His name is Edwin Morgan. He's or was a Scottish poet. He wrote a lot of very beautiful things, and I definitely recommend looking him up if you don't know him already. But I'm going to share a poem of his called Trio. Coming up Buchanan Street, quickly, on a sharp winter evening, a young man and two girls under the Christmas lights. The young man carries a new guitar in his arms. The girl on the inside carries a very young baby, and the girl on the outside carries a chihuahua. And the three of them are laughing. Their breath rises in a cloud of happiness. And as they pass, the boy says, "Wait till he sees this butt." The chihuahua has a tiny Royal Stuart tartan coat, like a teapot holder. The baby, in its white shawl, is all bright eyes and mouth like favours in a fresh sweet cake. The guitar swells out under its milky plastic cover, tied at the neck with silver tinsel tape and a brisk sprig of mistletoe. Orphean sprig, melting baby, warm chihuahua. The veil of tears is powerless before you. Whether Christ is born or is not born, you put paid to fate. It abdicates under the Christmas lights. Monsters of the year go blank, are scattered back, can't bear the march of three. And the three have passed, vanished in the crowd, yet not vanished. For in their arms they wind the life of men and beasts, and music, laughter ringing them round like a guard at the end of this winter's day. We've had lots of very wintry days here lately. It's been snowing, it's sort of half snowing, half raining at the moment, and you might be able to hear it. I'm out in my studio in the garden, a bit of a different place to usual, and that's because my little boy Robin is off school because it's the holidays, and the schools are likely to be shut for a little while because of the lockdown. So he's in the house with his big sister, who is home educated, so she's quite used to going and being quiet when I'm podcasting, and with my partner, so they're in there in the house, and I thought I'd come out here where it's a little bit quieter. We have our little white Christmas tree up in here, and it's a nice place to come. I do a lot of my writing in here, and I keep a lot of my yarn out here, and I really like how clearly you can hear the rain falling on the wooden roof. But my apologies if that's quite loud. I don't know how well it will come over the camera, but I'm hoping it will just be a nice peaceful bit of background noise to listen to in the background. So yeah, this time, this podcast, I'm going to go through some of my knits from 2020. I'm going to talk about some of my plans for crafting for 2021, and I'm going to show you some finished objects, and I'm also doing a giveaway. So yeah, stick around, we've got lots to cover. So I'll start off with what I'm wearing, a couple of finished objects. This hat is the Camabonia Mystery Knit-Along hat. Here, I'll take it off and show my slightly messy hair underneath. My hair is always kind of messy. I used to have very short hair and I've sort of grown it out and out this year. But here it is, the finished hat. It was a lovely, lovely knit. I was worried that the pale green was too pale and you wouldn't be able to see it so clearly, but I really love the gentle way that it looks, so subtle and not at all shouting, just a nice quiet colour. And here's the beautiful top. Sophia Camaborn makes these absolutely beautiful patterns, and I think she has such a talent for charming pieces of colour work. Charming is the best word I can think of for it. So with this hat, I knit it with Drops Flora, which is the cream, the natural white kind of colour, and the pale sort of sage green is in Drops Flora, which is a wool and alpaca blend, and then the dark green is Lang baby alpaca, so that's 100% baby alpaca. The yarns were lovely to work with and they were in my stash and I wanted to use them, but I had one issue, which is that I didn't get gauge at all. So my gauge was smaller. I had more stitches and more rows per inch than the pattern called for. So I cast on the bigger size to make it fit for me. I'm normally a small size in a hat, but I cast on the bigger size, and I added an extra repeat of this section here. It's like a series of OXO before these diamond motifs here, and I added another one on top of it before I got into the decreases to give it just a little bit of extra length. I love this star in the middle on top. So that was the only modification I really did. I made a mistake while I was knitting, which you can kind of see here in the hearts. There's these alternating filled in hearts and hearts that are, kind of white inside, and I missed a stitch off when I was doing the outline hearts. And that's okay. I noticed it a couple of rows later and I could have ripped back, but I just sort of didn't mind. I thought it looked fine, so I just left it. It's Christmas. And I was like, no, I'm not ripping anything back. I don't like ripping things back. So yeah, I think it fits me perfectly. It was exactly as I wanted. It comes down over my ears. It's warm but not too heavy, and I love it. I love it very much. And I've been wearing it a lot, even in just the last few days since I finished it. Yeah, what a lovely knit. So thank you so much to Sophia for this lovely project. It's lovely. I really enjoy it. So here's the inside for those of us who like to see the inside of colour work. You can see there is where I've woven in an end. See this here. That's focusing okay. Yeah, that's my hat. Yeah, the second thing I'm wearing is my Galtopigan sweater. So this is actually for my dad. It's big on me, but I wanted to wear it because it's so cozy and lovely. The pattern is Galtopigan. Let me check my notes. It's by Erica Guselius. Yeah, Galtopigan. I'm probably not saying that right, but Erica Guselius. And with all of these patterns, I'll put a link in the description to the pattern or wherever you can find it. So I'll stand up and let you have a little look. Oh, I'm bumping things. See, it's very long on me, if you can see the bottom. Because obviously it's for my dad, not for me. I really like these sleeves. They are really nice. And then obviously the yoke, it's got a lovely yoke. Let me show you as it goes around to the side and the back. Yeah, I was dead pleased with this. I thought it came out really, really nicely. I actually really like wearing it myself. I like an oversized sweater. You can see it covers my hands, but that's quite a nice length, I think, for a sweater. But I will package it up and send it to my dad as soon as I've finished the stockings, the boot stockings for my stepmother, which I'm going to send at the same time. And I'm most of the way done with those. I'm on the second one and I'm coming up on turning the heel, so that should be done fairly soon. Now, what I'm going to do, this is undoubtedly the last garment that I'm going to finish in 2020, unless I finish something very quickly tonight, which is unlikely. So I thought I would go through just the sweaters that I made this year, many of which I've given away. So for those ones, I'll put a photo up on the screen and you'll be able to see them. I thought I'd go through in order. When I added them up, I found I did 13 sweaters this year. And that's including sweaters for my kids, but not including baby sweaters or anything like that for family. So including child-size stuff and grown-up size stuff. I knit 13 sweaters, which is more than one a month, which is really good for me actually. Normally I'm quite slow. So yeah, I'm really pleased with how much I got done. So I'll go through them pattern by pattern. I can put my hat back on. And show you them and talk a little bit about them and when I was knitting them and things like that. So okay, we'll start with this one here. Here we go. So this is, you might well recognise it. This pattern is called Wintersol. It's by Jennifer Steingass. She's an absolutely fantastic designer of yoked sweaters in particular. So yeah, this is Wintersol. And for this one, this is for my daughter Audrey, and I've been knitting her, and this is the last in a series of sweaters I was knitting her for each season of the year. Oh no, wait, it wasn't the last. This was the second to last in a series of jumpers I was knitting her for each season of the year. So this is, although it's got quite autumny colours, this is the winter one. I particularly thought that the way these kind of motifs here, they look like bare trees when they've lost their leaves in winter. So I thought I would put those by this green colour to match the green of the canal near our house. We go and walk by the canal and it's this deep murky green, and at this time of the year it's all frozen over. And so here we've got the kind of grey-white sky and the trees. So in the past I've knit her, I knit her a spring sweater that in all the colours of the Water of Leith nearby where we live. It's a river, a very beautiful river that runs through the city of Edinburgh and out into the countryside. Well, in from the countryside and through Edinburgh down to Leith into the sea. And we go there a lot because there are woods that line it on each side, even in the city. And we go in and spend time in the woods and by the river. It's a place that means so much to us, and in the spring it's just stunning. I wish I could take you there, and maybe this year I will be able to in some way by taking some video footage when I'm there. All of the wildflowers that come up in the spring are so stunning. So I knit it in all the different colours. I knit it in this very grass green. It's a yoked sweater, and on the yoke, each of the 4 sweaters is a yoked sweater, and on the yoke I've put these like flower motifs, and I've got the white of the snowdrops, the purple and yellow of the crocuses, and the bright yellow of the daffodils coming up, and then the deep green of all of the wild garlic. So the wild garlic can just be seen, the wild garlic can be seen for just as far as the eye can see. It comes in like a carpet everywhere, and the smell of it is so thick. And then when the flowers open, the ramsons, they're just unbelievably white, like snow on the woods. So I knit her a yoke in all those colours, and then but that was a year or so before. And I also knit her an autumn jumper that was like autumn in the city. So near where we like to go for a walk, there is a very big horse chestnut tree which turns, it's always one of the first trees to turn for some reason, and it turns this unbelievable golden yellow against all the brick buildings behind it. So I made her a grey sweater with a yellow pattern on the yoke, like a deep golden yellow on the yoke. And then this one for winter, for by the canal, with all the trees reaching up their bare branches. Now, this is knit in Drops Nepal again, like this Girl Hub again. It's a yarn that I really like. It's a very heavy yarn, so this is a heavy jumper, and I knit it at an incredibly tight gauge because I wanted it to be warm, really warm enough for winter in Scotland, to be keeping her really, really warm. So it's a very tightly knit, very dense fabric. And I was really pleased with the way it turned out. It looks gorgeous on her. She just looks stunning in it. I'll insert a photograph so you can see. The pattern has an unusual construction. It starts with a provisional cast on here, and the yoke is knit upwards, and then the body is picked up and knit downwards, or maybe vice versa. I didn't do that, I have to say, at the start of the year. So this was knit before the pandemic really kicked in. And at the start of the year, I had a lot of work on. I was going into schools all around Fife, working on a kind of a literacy project, taking poetry into schools. I was working at a poetry festival. I was doing a lot of travelling, and I wanted to knit this, and I did knit this on all the train travel I was doing. And so I really didn't want anything where I had to be too fiddly with it. So I just sort of reverse engineered the pattern to be knit top down, and I knit it from the top down. And it was fine. It was just fine to do that, and I was quite happy with it. The one issue that I had was that the yarn came in 2 dye lots, and you can really clearly see where the dye lot changed. And I considered striping it in, but actually the colours are so different that even the stripes were really, really visible. So I thought what I'd do is I'd just do one dye lot for the top, and then switch to another quite sharply, but at the same point, so that it sort of has this effect of the different greens, which actually still reminds me of the canal and the way it deepens as it gets deeper as it gets further out, and the colour changes. So in the end, it would have bothered me on a sweater for me, but Audrey can pull it off. So yeah, I like that a lot. This is my first sweater of the year. Knit it nice and long. I really like the colours. I was very happy with it, and it fits her beautifully, and she's worn it a lot. It's a very nice, dense, warm, good sturdy jumper. That was the first one. The second jumper of the year that I made was a jumper for myself, and it's the only jumper that I made for myself all year. In fact, it's one of the only things I made for myself. This hat, I think, is the second one. All year, and that's one of the things I think I'd like to change next year. I knit a lot of things for other people, which is lovely, and there's nothing like making a gift for somebody that you know is really going to appreciate it, and giving it to them and seeing how happy and delighted they are, and seeing them wear something that you made. It's the best feeling, and that's lovely. But I think I need to be making more things for myself, and I think part of it is that I feel quite self-conscious, and I often think, oh, I don't look very good in any of these, and I don't like the photos, and then I start to think, well, it's a waste to make stuff for me. It doesn't look good. It looks good on, other people. When I make something for Audrey, it looks brilliant, but on me it just looks frumpy, and I don't like the way I look. And I think that's a mindset maybe I need to work on and to change in the coming year. I don't want to pass that down to Audrey. And so I think I need to make nice things for myself. So this jumper was the Autumn League Pullover by Alexandra Javel. Here it is, the Autumn League Pullover. It's very plain and very lovely. The only real detail is this this cross at the front there, that little detail there. It's knit in this very old wool, this very old dusky pink wool, which I have had for a very long time and inherited from my grandma, and she, I think, had it for a very long time. So it's very old wool, and it's very rustic, and it's soft, but it's not like alpaca soft. I love it a lot. It's very warm, but not too thick. It's a double knitting weight yarn, but it's a light double knitting. I think I knit this on 3.5 or 3.75 needles, and it's still very drapey. And then you can see the sleeves are already a bit felty and a bit not so springy on the cuffs. It has little pills, but I like it. It's very cozy. It's very wide and boxy. It's a good shape. It feels very comfy on me. It has this split hem. Can't remember if that's in the original pattern or if I added it in. But yeah, I put a split hem in it, which makes it even cozier. And I knit this at the start of the first lockdown, so back in kind of March time, and I remember distinctly thinking, I want something to wear over pyjamas, because I intend to spend the next few weeks living in my pyjamas at home. And I did. I've spent a lot of this year in pyjamas, being very cozy and warm, and wearing this jumper over the top. It's a lovely jumper to wear over pyjamas. And actually, every year in the summer, we go swimming in the river, in the Water of Leith, quite a lot, me and my kids, and it's freezing cold even in summer because we live in Scotland, and when we come out we're always a bit shivery and cold for a while afterwards, and then this was the perfect thing to put on then to warm up and get warm again and cozy. So that's my Autumn League pullover, and it was a really plain, simple thing to knit actually. It starts all in the round, and you knit the raglan in the round going down, which I like because it makes it very neat. And then when here you split, so it's sort of the opposite of the construction I'm used to, where you knit in the round up to here and then split, but you split here and you knit the front and back separately and the sleeves separately and flat, and then you seam it all up. I seamed this with backstitch. I think it's come out really neat. Sometimes I do backstitch, sometimes I do other kinds of stitches, but I think this one, the seams came out really nice. It's just fine. This is, I think, one of the things I wear most often, one of the items of clothing I wear almost every day. You can find me in it at some point in the day, even if it's just first thing in the morning. So that was the second jumper that I made of the year. The third one that I made was the summer jumper that I made for Audrey. So I told you I made ones for each a season of the year for her, and I wanted to make her a yoked jumper to do with summer. And this summer we were very much stuck inside, and one of the things that we missed a lot was going to the beach. We don't drive, we take the train everywhere, but normally we take the train up to North Berwick or the bus out to Portobello or Joppa, and we go rock pooling and we swim in the sea. We did it a little bit at times this year when the lockdown was lifted enough that we could go, but really only once or twice were we able to. And Audrey especially, she said that I just missed the beach, Mama. So I thought I would make her a very bright, very fun beach themed jumper. And this is it. It has lots of brightness, and it has these fish on the front, and then the bottom has these waves and yet more fish, and these sleeves as well. So I don't know if you're seeing that okay. I made this in this lovely, very gold coloured, and this is a very much more fitted jumper. It fits her to a T just now. It's even maybe slightly getting small on the arms, so I think that by next year we'll be trying it on Robin instead of Audrey. But that's okay, everything Audrey grows out of gets passed to Robin and goes through him as well, and then from then on to other family members and other small people. There's always more children to pass knitwear on to. So this was based on a design called Beach Baby by Christine H. Wilkins, and her version is smaller than this, so I sized it up, and it has this pattern on the yoke, but then it doesn't have anything on the base. I thought that this blue was so light compared to the yellow that it's a bit swamped by it on its own at the top, so I wanted to add more of the blue and the orange, so I put more of it in at the bottom, and I put some on the sleeves as well. It's knit in the round, I think from the top down, and it was a very, very quick knit. This is Aran weight, incredibly quick and fun to do, and yeah, no bother at all. It fit her great, it looks lovely. I had no issues with it at all. I was really pleased. So that's the Beach Baby. The next one I made I don't have to show you because it was given to its recipient in the summer, and that is the Embrace Octopus Jumper by Maya E. Symes. Now this pattern is sized for an adult, and it only comes I think in 1 or 2 sizes, but both are in adult sizes. So I rejigged it slightly to make it into a child size. So Errol is I think 8 now, but was 7 when I made this. I had all his measurements and I knew what I was aiming for. So basically what I did was I knit it in an Aran weight yarn, I knit a swatch and worked out my gauge, worked out that would give me the right width but would be slightly short on the length. So I added a few extra rows here and there, and you can't really see where I've done it, but basically I just repeated some of the rows of pattern, and I think I did it 6 or 8 times, and it just gave another couple of centimeters to the length to make it just about long enough. I added a couple of centimeters on the sleeves at the start before I went into the pattern. In retrospect, I should have added more. And then for the raglan, that was really hard. I did add in a few extra bits, but I tried. That was tricky to do, but it seemed okay. It worked out okay. Basically, in the end, it fit him, which was great, and it looks fab on him, and he loves it, which is so lovely. And he's such a knit-worthy young person, and he was so happy with it. I can't even tell you. I finished it on such a hot time of the summer, and it was a lovely hot day. We went to meet them at the meadow because it was in the time of still being somewhat in the lockdown, but you could meet up kind of outdoors more safely. So we went to the meadow to meet them, and even though it was such a hot day and it was in this Aran weight wool, he put it right on and wore it and took loads of photos, and he was so happy with it. So that was just lovely. I was so pleased to be able to make that. Errol is my daughter's good friend, and it was really nice to make him an octopus jumper. He loves octopuses. So as soon as I saw this pattern, I think I saw it last winter, and I just knew. I showed it to his mum and I said, I have to make this for Errol, and she said, oh, he would love that. And he chose the colours. He chose, he wanted a blue that was the colour of Neptune. So I chose this is Drops Alaska, in this really deep, rich blue. So it's 100% wool. It's lovely and soft and squishy. And then he wanted the orange octopus, and I love this colour of orange. It's such a deep, rich shade. And I was so pleased with how it turned out, and he's really happy with it. I wish I'd have made it slightly bigger, because I feel with the rate that children grow, he'll be grown out of it by the end of this winter, I'm pretty sure. I think already it's probably getting a bit short on his arms, and I wish I'd made it bigger so that he could wear it for longer. I feel like children can wear jumpers for a couple of seasons. Children can wear jumpers for a couple of seasons. If they're big enough, they can start out a bit oversized and end up quite fitted. But yeah, so I wish I'd made it a little bigger for him. Instead of going off his exact measurements, I should have added on but I'll remember that for next time. And he has a little sister, so hopefully it can be passed on to her when he's too big for it. And actually his little sister has asked me for her own version. She wants rainbow coloured octopus. And I think that might be a little bit tricky because she's so much smaller. She's I think 3, 4, but she's very petite. And I don't know how to translate the pattern. I think it would end up being too wide and nowhere near tall enough. So I'd have to really just rechart it, I think, which is a big job. So I don't know. I might end up making another in a sort of similar size to the one I made for Errol and having her grow into it. I'm not sure. I'm still thinking it through. But in the meantime, I've been making her a rainbow dress because she loves to wear a dress. So I've been knitting her this rainbow dress in very bright colours, and I'll show that on a future episode because it's still a work in progress. It's going a bit slowly, but I'll pick it up again and we'll get there. So that was the 4th jumper I made. The 5th I also don't have a picture of. It was for my daughter's friend Madeline for her birthday in the summer, and I made her the Enchanted Garden Pullover, which is a free pattern from Patterns. And actually the pictures on the pattern for this didn't look very promising, and I don't know if anybody had even made it at the time when I made it, but I could see the promise in it. I could see that the charts were beautiful, but I wanted to put different colours on it. Theirs has a lot of orange, and instead I chose a variety of blues, because Madeline really loves blue, and greens, and like a lavender purple, and some white, creamish white, and then just a little pop of red for the butterflies. And it worked out beautifully. This is one of my favourite things I've ever made. It just looks like a dream, like a lovely wildflower garden. It's one of the most whimsical things I've made. It fit her perfectly. She looked so cute in it. I'll try and put in a little bit. I've got a little clip of Audrey wearing it and doing a little spin in it in the garden, I think. But if not, I'll just put some pictures in for you to see. I was so delighted with how this came out. This is in a double knitting, 100% wool. I think it's another Drops one. I want to say Drops Charisma, which is a wool I really like. It's a double knitting, and it's just nice and woolly, but not too scratchy. So it's good for kids, and it's very inexpensive. So I loved making this pullover. I did make some changes, but nothing too severe. I added a little bit of length. I changed the colours and the ordering of the colours around and some of the charts, and just some things like that. Nothing major, just like a few little tweaks. But generally I knit it according to the pattern, and the pattern is beautiful. And I really recommend, I think some more people have made it since I have, and I recommend going and having a look at it. It's just such a gorgeous pattern, and it's exactly the kind of thing I love to knit. Nature themed, outdoor themed, beautiful colours, so whimsical, so charming, lots of lovely colour work. And I found it went so quickly because with each little stripe of colour with its own little flower or pattern or butterfly, I couldn't wait to finish it and see what it looked like next to all the other patterns. Every row, every stripe just went so quickly, and I loved it. I was really, really taken with this one. The next thing I knit was for my dear friend Alice. I knit her a cardigan called Myrna by Andy Satterland. My friend Alice is quite small of stature. She's one of the few people I know who's shorter than me. And so I wanted to make sure I was knitting her something that wouldn't be too long in the waist, something a little bit cropped and quite fitted but very elegant. She's a very elegant lady. And so we went through some patterns together, and she said she really liked the look of this one. I think we especially liked that it had this keyhole in the back, which I thought was such a nice detail, and it was very easy to make. I knit this yarn in Cascade 220 in, I think, a forest colourway, like a foresty green. Alice said that I should pick the colour, and I think that she's quite a forest witch person, so I picked this foresty green, and I chose these wooden buttons to match. which I think they match it very beautifully and add to that kind of foresty, witchy look. Overall, I wasn't so impressed with the Cascade 220 yarn. I had expected it, especially considering, you know, it's a good basic yarn, but it's a bit more expensive than the drop stuff, I believe. So I expect it to be like a little nicer maybe than that. Actually, I found it probably wasn't as good as the drops, and it was, it almost had an acrylic-y feel to it, even though it was 100% wool. I don't know if that's the superwashness, but yeah, I mean, it knit up nicely. It was beautiful. The colour was very deep and gorgeous, and I was really happy with the finished object. So I didn't really have any complaints about it. I just sort of felt I would have liked it to be more woolly in some ways, if that makes sense. But this was a lovely cardigan. I didn't change it, except I took off a little bit of length on the body and on the sleeves, because again, Alice is quite small and I wanted it to still have that cropped look and to be cinched in at the natural waist. And it fits her perfectly, which was just astounding considering I knit this for her while we were on lockdown and I could not see her in person or ask her to try it on. And it's a really fitted piece. So I was really pleased that in the end it did fit. I was concerned that it wouldn't. I was very pleased with that. And the next thing I knit, the 7th sweater I knit, was a commission. Someone got in contact with me and asked me to knit an adult male large sized replica of Ed the Duck's jumper. Now, if you don't know, or you're not in the UK, Ed the Duck was a puppet, a duck puppet, a hand puppet on children's television in like the 1980s. And so this is a very niche thing, and he had this little knitted jumper in like a yellow, a pink and a blue with like black writing that said Ed in big letters. And so it was a bit of a trip down memory lane to be reminded of Ed the Duck. And a men's large garment is pretty big. I went for a bulky yarn to try and give it the same kind of look as that very small jumper bit in a big size. I thought if I went for a fine yarn, it wouldn't look the same, if that makes sense, because there'd be such an unbelievably more amount of stitches. It would look really drastically different. So I used a bulky yarn, and I just sort of worked out the pattern myself using a very simple drop sleeve construction. And here I think you should be able to see some pictures of it. It was great fun. It was great fun to make this giant Ed the Duck jumper. What can I say? It was a good fun project. That was Ed the Duck by me. I just made up the pattern. The next thing I made, number 8, I can actually show you. It's my Organic Seasons jumper for Robin, my little son, who is 5. So this is the Organic Seasons jumper. It's a jacket, it's a hoodie. It's got this little lovely pixie hood. It's got, I sewed a ribbon in to the button band on each side, and then it has these buttons, but they're just for kind of decoration because it has poppers on the inside. My son is disabled, and so we need things that can come off and on quite easily for him. So here we go. It's got this asymmetrical front, which I wasn't sure about at first, but actually I really like. And Raglan sleeves. It has this lovely falling leaves pattern at the bottom. And the pattern's quite a bargain. It's kind of a 4-in-1, because you get this pattern with the falling leaves, but you also get one for each of the seasons. That's why it's the Organic Seasons jacket, because it has I think tulips for spring and I think a beach with the sun for summer and snowflakes for winter. So I can definitely see myself making more of these. It was a lovely knit. I added on some colour work to the sleeves, some extra little flower leaves to the sleeves. And this is knit in the Istex Let Lopi wool. I found it quite scratchy to knit with. I'm quite sensitive to wool, and I do like my soft wool. And this was hurting my fingers after a while because I I knit continental style, and I had it wound around my left hand, and after a while where it was pulling constantly over my fingers was starting to get raw and sore, and I worried like, oh no, it's going to be too rough for him to wear. But after a wash it's softened right up, and actually I don't really have too much of a problem with it right next to my skin now. So maybe I would make myself something in this. I do love how fluffy and rustic it looks. You see, it's just really, really lovely. So I do think I would knit with Let Loppy again, and I used the leftovers. I still have some leftovers, but I used them to make lots of really nice things like little mushrooms and decorations, and so that was a really nice thing to do. The next jumper I made was one that's been in my queue since before my daughter was born, and she's 9, so for quite some time, and it is the Starry Nights jumper by Sam Godden. I've shown this before. It is just one of my favourite things. It's so beautiful. I think the colours are gorgeous. I stuck exactly to the pattern on this one. I didn't change a thing. I made the large size. I did. I extended the length by some, but that's within the pattern. It says knit until you're happy with the length, so I knit it quite long because my daughter is very tall. She takes after her dad, not after me. Here is the pattern, the jumper. This is a free pattern, which I can hardly believe because it's so stunning. Like, there's so much work that has obviously gone into this and charting it and making it. What a lovely, lovely jumper. It is knit from the bottom up. It starts with this broken rib. It has this little curled hem, and then the broken rib, lines of the garter stitch, this pattern which goes from the very pale blue to the white to the light yellow, like lemon yellow, to the gold, and then the same for these star patterns, and then it repeats again here. At this point it is split for the place for the zip to go in. It has a zip front, and it has, you can see my insides of my colour work. It has nice gosh, it's honestly a lovely pattern to knit. It's quick because it's just addictive. You start and you do not want to stop. So yeah, I enjoyed that a lot. You knit the sleeves on, you join in the round, but, well, not in the round, kind of in the round, but it's got this broken bit at the front. You could probably steek that. The pattern doesn't have it steeked, it has it knit back and forth, but you probably could. Then the collar is knit twice the length and then sewn to make a really nice thick collar, and my daughter loves when it's cold to zip this right up over her mouth. I've knit this again in Drops Charisma, 100% wool. It's lighter than some of her Aran weight sweaters, but it's still really warm. She wears this a lot. I think this is, out of all her jumpers, the one she wears most often. That's the Starry Nights. Getting near the end of my little run through. I really enjoy seeing other podcasters do a run through of all of their sweaters and things that they've made in a year. So I'm hoping that this is enjoyable for you and not too dull. So the next things that I've made, I made this Christmas vest for Robin. Again, it's just designed by me and based on some kind of free patterns that I found online and patterns I just made up and things like that. This is his Christmas vest. Here we go. And he's worn this to pieces. You can see there's threads hanging out that I need to mend. He's worn this year. He wore it to school absolutely loads before the school's finished for the holidays. The pattern's just gone to the back. Yeah, this was super quick, super fun. Yeah, I had planned it from last Christmas, but I didn't get time last year, so I was pleased to have time to do it this year. It was very a very straightforward construction. I knit it from the bottom up. No problems. I knew my gauge, I knew how many stitches I needed to cast on, so I went straight up, then I decreased slightly for the sleeves, then knit straight up to the top here. For the front I just cast off some in the middle and went up each side. Then what did I do for the shoulders? I think I grafted the shoulders together, or maybe I did a 3 needle bind off, I'm not completely sure. And then picked up stitches for the neck and picked up stitches around each of the armholes. And for the armholes and for the bottom I did this corrugated rib, which was pretty, and I like the look of it. So yeah, that was that. Then I knitted the snowflake cardigan for Audrey, which I've spoken about quite recently, so I won't go into too much. But yeah, this is from the Country Diary of an Edwardian Lady. This is in alpaca wool, and it is, what is it? It's the Artisanal Aran, in this lovely deep blue and white. And yeah, it's lovely. It's got these nice buttons. If you can see, I alternated the white and the wooden ones because we couldn't choose between them. This one is knit in pieces, bottom up. So it's I think I started with a front piece, then I did one of the sleeves, then I did the other front piece, then I did the back. Now I realised that I didn't have enough of the blue to complete the back, and it's a discontinued yarn, so I couldn't, I had to do the back all in white. I had plenty of white, just not enough blue. So I did the back plain, and I've done the sleeves in the colour work as written in the pattern. Now, since then, I did find somebody on Ravelry with some skeins of the blue, and she sent them to me. I don't think realistically that I'm going to rip this out and redo it with the blue, but I think what I might do is either make a matching one for Robin in a smaller size, or maybe matching hats for them, something like that, with the blue. But yeah, that's Audrey's Christmas sweater for this year. After that, there's one more that I sent off that I can show you photographs of, and that was the Darth Vader jumper. This was another commission, and it was for a little 6-year-old boy who loves Darth Vader, loves Star Wars, is all about all things dark side. So I used some of the free charts. Sometimes you find them as cross-stitch charts. But the free charts that there are for Star Wars, there's lots of them going about, and I used one on the front of Darth Vader, the man himself, and on the back of the Death Star. And this little boy's favourite colour is bright red, so I used black on this bright red. And again, I just made up a very simple pattern for the sweater itself. I can't remember what I did. Did I knit it as a raglan? Or did I knit it? No, I think it was a drop shoulder. I'm not sure. I can't remember, but I'll put the photo on and you'll see. But yeah, I just made it up as I went along. This was in an acrylic yarn. The family are vegan and wanted me to make it in acrylic instead of wool. So I made this little jumper. It was another really fun one. I do like my commissioned ones because you never know what you're going to get, and this one was a lovely one to finish just before Christmas. And then the last one that I made, number 13, is this for my dad, which I've already shown you. It's in his favourite colours, and I hope that he likes it. He's not seen it. I don't think he'll be watching this. So I will get it in the post to him. It's quite wide. Quite wide on me and quite long on me, almost like a dress. But he's a bit taller than me, and I hope he'll like it. I think he will. yeah, that's my last of my garment knits of 2020. It's been quite a good year for knitting. I knit a lot of other things too. I knit many hats. I think I worked out that I made 20 or so hats, and 4 or 5 pairs of mittens that I finished, and some socks, and a pumpkin, and some mushrooms, and lots of things like that, lots of bits and pieces. But I wanted to just focus on the sweaters for this. Now, I'm going to talk in a minute about my knitting plans for next year, just to quickly finish this off. But before I get onto that, I thought I would talk about the giveaway. Now, I said last time that I would do a giveaway if I hit 100 subscribers, and I've actually surpassed that. I think I've got 130 something at the moment, which is lovely. So I'm just going to do a little giveaway. One of my favourite things recently has been receiving a lovely skein of yarn from Enchanted Yarn, who is a Scottish hand dyer up here in Scotland, and her yarn is gorgeous. It's just beautiful. So I thought what I could do is I could give the chance for one of my followers to win a skein of her yarn, and you can choose which one you like out of any of them from her shop, and I will buy it for you and get it sent to you. Now, all you have to do is to like this video, subscribe, and leave a comment. In your comment, maybe you could tell me one of your knitting plans for this coming year, even if it's just to kind of have fun while knitting, or to take it easy, or not to plan too much. That's fine too. And go and take a look at her website. I'm going to put a link in the description again to see. She has the most beautiful yarns, and I'm just really keen to support this Scottish dyer as much as I can. I think we've got to stick together a little bit, especially small businesses at this time of year. It's been a rough year for everybody, I think. So yeah, let's show her some love. Enchanted Yarn. And yeah, leave a comment, like, subscribe. I will pick randomly from the comments and announce the winner in my next video, and contact whoever has won. So that's my giveaway. Feel free to join in. Anyone's welcome to join in. You don't have to be even a knitter. I think there are some people who watch this who are not knitters, and that's fine. You can still join in the giveaway. Okay, so plans for this coming year. Let me have a look and show you. I'm not even going to show any of my works in progress this time. I'm going to save them for next time, because I thought this massive stash of jumpers might be enough to go through for today. So I filled out this, it's very crumpled now due to my children, but I filled out this knitting bingo for 2021, which has been very well read by my children and passed around. And it's just a blank bingo set, but I've written in things that I want to do for next year. I'm not going to share all of them because there's, I think, 25, but I thought I'd try and tick off next year as many as I can. And some of them are just nice things, and some of them are difficult things. So yeah, so there's a few of them that are for fun, like play yarn chicken, or impulse cast on, which are just fun squares. But some of them are more interesting. One of them is to steek a garment. I have never done a steek, which I know is really bad because I do so much colour work. But I have done colour work back and forth rather than steeking because I'm so intimidated by it. The idea of spending all that time knitting something and then taking a pair of scissors to it is just an anxiety nightmare. So, but I want to not fear it anymore. So one of my things that I'm most determined to do is to tick off this box and to steek something, finally. So hopefully I'll be able to show you on here. I've spoken before about this, but knitting, publishing one of my own patterns is definitely one of the things I'm most aiming for next year. I make up patterns all the time, and I should share them. There's no reason why not. it would be fun, and it would be amazing, wouldn't it, to see somebody else knitting and wearing something that you've designed. I think that must be the best feeling. Yeah. Teaching someone to knit is on here, and that's something I do quite a lot. Like I said, my daughter's home educated, and so I spend a lot of time with the home educating community when it's not lockdown and a pandemic. So it's something I've not had much chance to do this year, but ordinarily I'm always teaching, you know, people in the home ed community. My friends generally know they can come to me to learn to knit. That's what I do, and I even have run a little knitting group from my house where we all just sit around on the sofa and I teach them how to knit and give them needles and wool and get them started. And it's a lovely thing to do, and I've missed it this year because we've been locked down for so much of the damn year that I have not been able to sit with a new knitter and help them, and it's one of the most gentle ways that you can spend your time, and so that's one of my plans for this year. One of my plans is to test knit a pattern for somebody else. I've never done that before because I've always been anxious about the deadlines, because my caring commitments for my family are such that it's hard to commit to other things. But now that Robin is at school, once the schools are back, he's at a special school, it's given me a bit of time each day, which is just invaluable. So I feel more able to commit to doing a test knit, which would be great. Knitting things for myself is on this list. What else is on here? Finishing some of my socks and mittens. I've mentioned before that I do have a collection of single socks and single mittens. I'm going to finish some of them. Oh, and knitting a mohair garment. That would be good. Knitting a mohair, something with mohair. I've never really knit much with mohair before. I've been knitting some mohair hats, and I really want to make myself a sweater with mohair. And I have some lovely drops kid silk in the colour vanilla, which I think would pair really nicely with some yarn I got for Christmas from my stepmom. So that might have to happen. Yeah, there's a few other things on here, but you get the gist of it. I'm going to have fun. I think it's going to be a great year for knitting, and at the moment the snow has been falling. It's been such beautiful, cozy knitting weather. We've been going out and playing and tramping around in the snow and throwing rocks into the river and breaking the ice, and it's just a lovely time to come home and get a cup of cocoa and knit on the sofa. And one of my favourite things to do, one of the best things in life, is to sit and knit while my daughter reads to me. And we've been doing lots of that, which is just the biggest treat for me. So I think that brings me about to the end of this episode of this podcast. I hope that you enjoyed seeing my knits from this year. I had got some nice Christmas presents, including a ball winder in Swift, which I had never had before. Previously I've wound all my yarn by hand, even very thin yarn, which takes a long time. So I'm hoping in the next episode I can show you some footage of that, because I have been winding some of my yarn up ready to make the chanterelle sweater. And I've also been working on one of my own designs for a cardigan, which I will also share with you next time a little bit of. But for now, I'm going to finish with another poem. This poem is it's by a poet called Thomas A. Clarke, who's another Scottish poet, and I just love his poetry. It is very spare, very sparse poetry that doesn't say too much. Often his poems are just a few words long. I really encourage you to go and look him up and read more of his work. He walks every day. He spends a lot of time walking and out in nature. And he he writes these very short, kind of distilled pieces about his time outdoors, and almost all his poetry is nature poetry. This poem seemed especially fitting for the new year, and so I'll wish you a happy Hogmanay and read you this blessing by Thomas A. Clarke. May the best hour of the day be yours. May luck go with you from hill to sea. May you stand against the prevailing wind. May no forest intimidate you. May you look out from your own eyes. May near and far attend you. May you bathe your face in the sun's rays. May you have milk, cream, substance. May your actions be effective. May your thoughts be affective. May you will both the wild and the mild. May you sing the lark from the sky. May you place yourself in circumstance. May you be surrounded by goldfinches. May you pause among alders. May your desire be infinite. May what you touch be touched. May the company be less for your leaving. May you walk alone beneath the stars. May your embers still glow in the morning. Happy New Year, everybody. I hope 2021 is very good to you. Goodbye.